episode of the Learn with Medical Library podcast. I'm Rebecca David, Senior Medical Librarian from the Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine. Joining me in this exciting discussion is Mr. Lim Rong, the Students' Medical Society President, as well as also a Year 4 student from the Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine. He shares with us about his student presidency, some of his favorite book reads or journal articles, and also his scholarly research project journey, as well as some tips on how to maintain a healthy lifestyle during the rigorous yet rewarding MBBS journey. Let's dive right in and welcome Lim Rong. Good morning, Lim Rong, and thank you for joining us in today's podcast special. So I'm sure that as a Medical Society President, as a MedSoc President, or formerly also called as the Students' Medical Society President, it can be very rewarding but yet also offers some challenges along the way. Do share with us your experiences and what it really takes to be an effective student leader at a medical school.
Thanks, Rebecca, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here and to share my perspectives with you. So with regard to your question on how this journey has been so far and what it takes to be an effective leader, perhaps I'll answer the first part first, how my journey has been. I think it's a great honor and a great privilege to be able to serve my peers, and I really thank them for their trust in not just me, but also my entire committee for allowing us to serve them. I think over the course of the year, we've had many trials and tribulations, but many triumphs as well. We've had many interactions with the school, representing the students' voice to the school, and I think this year has been a year of great change, given that it's coming to the end of the we're anticipating the end of the Imperial Partnership, and we are embarking on a new journey as an independent NTU degree, and the school has been in contact with us very closely so that the students feel involved and so the students' voices are heard. Aside from that, I know my year reps, my committee heads have been working tirelessly to make sure that our students' perspectives are heard at our student dialogues and to make sure that every student's interests are accounted for when we speak to the faculty. Besides that, we've also been planning many events, and I think many events have come and gone by with great success, such as our annual talent show, our peanut butter and jam. We've also got our academic events such as our mock OSCEs. And then coming after this cast, we also have a few other events such as our Surf's Up, our Beach Day, our freshman orientation program, and our dinner and dance. Among many other programs such as surveys, academic programs, research programs that have been planned by our various committee heads. And I hope that these programs have brought a lot of joy and a lot of meaning to our students, and MedSoc will continue to work hard to represent our interests and to make sure that student life here at LKC continues to be vibrant now and beyond into the future. In terms of what makes an effective leader, I think everyone has different perspectives on what makes an effective leader. For me, when I was thinking through this question, I think three things stuck out to me. Number one is, to be an effective leader, you need to have courage, you need to have a heart to serve, and you need to have a bit of a tolerance for pain and to work hard. And I think a lot of these things are self-explanatory. I think you need to be dedicated to the cause that you're serving, no matter what it is, be it your CIP or your committee or MedSoc or even your own small student groups, student interest groups. And I think you need to have the courage as well to make certain decisions and to be accountable for them as the leader, and not to be afraid to make difficult decisions in order to move things on and to explain yourself. And of course, last but not least, hard work is a given, and as the leader, you need to set an example for your members, and also you need to make sure that things are pushed along. Of course, when I say work hard, you also got to work smart and make sure that you're heading down a direction that you've set for yourself.
Moving on to the next part of our segment, what are some of your favorite book reads or journals that offers valuable insights for our listeners?
One of my favorite book reads, and I would say my favorite book series, would be the Geronimo Stilton series. And this book has a special place in my heart because I used to read it a lot when I was a child. When I was in primary school, I would read it after school. School would end around 1 or 2 p.m. and my dad would come and pick me up around 6 p.m. At the time, a lot of my friends would have gone back home already, and I'll be stuck in school with no one to talk to, and the library was my only friend at the time. So I used to sit in the library and read Geronimo Stilton for hours until I cleared the whole shelf, and then I reread the books again. And it's something that has kept me company when I was a kid, and even now when I talk to juniors, and I mean like people in primary school, I tend to recommend them this book as well. As an older child, I think the most recent book I've read would be this book by David Goggins called Can't Hurt Me. So I think if you've gone through army, you might have heard of this book because he talks a lot about his experiences in the military. And I think it's a very inspiring story about someone who was born into a very difficult household, finding the mental strength and mental resilience to overcome his own demons and overcome himself and achieve things that people would not consider humanly possible. And I think I can never be him for sure, but I think he has inspired me to relook the way I live and the power that I have to change things. And I think it's guided me through very difficult times when I need inspiration or I need a motivating factor to push me forward.
We're going to add some fun element to our conversation. So are you ready for that?
Sure.
Let's go. Wrong. So let's play a quick game on the use and application of scientific research skills in evidence-based medicine.
Sure,
I'll give you two
it, yeah.
statements, okay? I'll give you two statements, and you will tell me if it's true or false. We can have a debating argument on this, okay? So you guys are going to hear what our opinions are, and you'll tell me if it's true or false first. Are you ready?
Okay, sure.
Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
So the first question, here we go. If you remember about your databases.
Yeah, let me search the archives.
Okay, lots of databases.
Yeah.
Lots of databases out there. Now, the most common and popular one, which is free, is PubMed. All right. So is PubMed a biomedical and clinical database or a multidisciplinary one? True or false?
I think it's true.
Okay.
Yes, I think
It's a biomedical and clinical.
Yes,
That's right. It's a clinical database. And that's so true because PubMed is truly a Medline index database. Okay, the next question. All right, ready?
Sure, let's go.
Okay, so this question could invite some intriguing discussions, but it's all opinionated based on perceptions as well, together with some structural support from evidence. Okay, so let's think deep about this.
Okay.
Structured research papers includes an abstract, an introduction, method, results and discussions. True or false?
That seems like a trick question, but I'm going to go with true based
Okay.
on my experiences. Yes.
Okay. Okay, why would you say that it's true? Is that usually the standard structure that students are guided to approach their research papers? Or the exciting elements that promotes reading and say, wow, this is actually a well-written research. What do you think about that?
I would say the majority of articles I've read, and at least in my experience in my scholarly project, and of course our science practicals as well.
Yeah.
This is the structure that we adhere to. But I do know of some papers where they go a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Sometimes the authors appraise their own paper and they
Yes.
perhaps add a limitation section. And some authors also write a conclusion and they give their insights into the paper and what can be done next. But I would say that majority of the articles I've read follow this introduction, methods, results, analysis, and the discussion section.
It's usually referred to as the IMRAD for short in its acronym. And I think that this structure is the skeletal framework for all of our research papers. So it's true, depending on the nature of the research topic, probably most of the laboratory and the clinical papers would heavily depend on this basic framework. But then again, to add some excitement, especially in medical education topics, for example, recently I read one paper on seating arrangements in TBL classrooms.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting. And in fact, the recommendations and the limitations actually added more, it captivated more of our attention to read the paper and say, oh, okay, there is a certain angle of the seating arrangement, what matters, what doesn't really affect. Yes, it was a very interesting paper, but these are all the exciting reads that adds up to the value of how we can structure our research papers. More importantly, I think students also benefit a lot from this writing experience itself. Thank you for your spontaneous participation in our mini game, and we move on to the next segment of our podcast. We would like to know a little bit more about your journey during the scientific research project itself, the Year 4 Scholarly Research Project. I'm sure the 6 weeks is very intensing for all of our students, but it will promote some form of a drive for students to learn so much about research. Share with us about your Year 4 Scholarly Research Project journey and how this was beneficial to you, and also how this prepares you to become a future-ready doctor.
Perhaps to give you a bit of background of what I did for my scholarly project. So my project was the development of an artificial intelligence tool to identify certain structures in the cornea, which is basically a layer in the eye. I thought I picked this project in particular because I wanted to know a little bit more about how these artificial intelligence systems were developed. As you mentioned, we want to be something that's doctors that are future ready. And I think the school has provided us opportunities, many opportunities to be involved in these research projects involving artificial intelligence, digital health, that will be perhaps the mainstay of research looking into the future. So I think with my experience participating in this project, I've learned that there will be an intersection of many disciplines moving into research moving forward. It won't just be medicine, it won't just be clinical work. You got to know a little bit about software, like different softwares, a bit of data analysis. You need to know how to operate AI software, how to construct models and construct algorithms to crunch your data. And you need to know how to talk to the computer engineers who will be your best friends when it comes to projects like these. So I think having these skills, learning these skills early, as with any other skills, will be important, because I think the narrative goes that as we progress, AI will become the forefront of our research and many of the things that we do. So it's good to know all these things early, and it's good that the school prepares us early for all these.
I was just thinking about this interesting app on diabetic retinopathy, and how diabetes, right, being one of the top diseases here in Singapore, I would say almost top 5 diseases here in Singapore. How are such apps actually reliable? Because public can actually download these apps sometimes. They're readily available on Google Play Store or on Mac stores. And I'm just wondering, like, these apps that have been piloted out there, how reliable are they? And can we really depend on all these telemedicine apps?
In my opinion, I still feel that the role of the doctor is still imperative. AI can be there to supplement, to assist and to augment whatever the clinician does, but it can never replace, at least in the near future, what a clinician is doing. And I've seen these apps before. In fact, during my GP posting, it's funny that you mentioned it, because I distinctly remember my GP sharing this particular app with me. I can't remember the name, but it's an app that's connected to a gun, right? And you place the barrel of the gun in it's not an actual gun, but it's designed like a gun. You place it over the patient's eye, and then you shoot. And it captures a picture of the fundus. And from there, the AI is able to detect whether this patient has glaucoma or has diabetic retinopathy. And it can do it in a matter of seconds. And I think if you ask any medical student, trying to look through a fundoscope, the eye can be quite an arduous process. And having an app like this really speeds up the time it takes to identify whether this patient has diabetic retinopathy or not. But at the end of it all, even with this app, the person who makes a decision on whether this is truly diabetic retinopathy or not is the doctor. And the doctor can override the AI anytime and says that, okay, the AI doesn't know what it's talking about. This is not diabetic retinopathy, or this is not glaucoma. That's why I still feel that although these apps are in existence, they will not replace the role of clinicians. They are there to guide, to augment, or to supplement the work that clinicians do.
We certainly think that it's so important to keep up to date with such evolving and emerging trends in medicine. I remember during the early years of the MBBS curriculum, students are taught how to navigate these databases, and it does promote a lot of valuable experiences for students to learn how to search for credible information, which is so essential for medical research. How was the experience like for you as a student when you were first being exposed to databases during your SEAM sessions or during your curriculum modules? Share with us a little bit on this.
Okay, to be honest with you, the first time when I encountered all these databases, I felt lost. It felt like an ocean for me.
Yeah.
Because I had no research experience in JC and in secondary school, so coming to university was the first foray into research.
Yeah.
And I remember being exposed to these things and thinking, how do I navigate all these different buttons and where do I find the articles that I want? But fortunately, there were the SEAM sessions, and I'm also grateful to the Medical Library and yourself for guiding us and teaching us how to craft an appropriate search strategy. I remember the PICO framework.
Yes,
And,
the famous PICO.
Yeah, the famous PICO, right? Every student now knows that.
Yes.
These 4 letters.
Yes.
And I think it's really helped me to navigate all these different databases and to find the articles that I need for my research.
Yeah, and I think adding on to the rigor of research is now the increasing demand of systematic reviews. So I'm not sure if you've experienced it, but I think some students would go through that in their Year 4 scholarly research projects, where you would not just have to search one database, but you would need to translate the searches across multiple databases,
Yes.
critically appraise them, and eventually synthesize the evidence to produce a research paper. Share with us a little bit of your experience.
I think writing the paper is perhaps the most fun part.
Okay.
Compared to doing the searches.
Okay.
Because data searching and extraction can be quite a painful process. And I think when you finally manage to put everything down on paper, it's quite rewarding. But I would say that this process of going through the data, critically appraising evidence, and eventually writing is an important one. Because as doctors, we don't just want to be strong clinically, but we also want to be, and this is a word that some senior doctors use, research ready. As a doctor, you would be exposed to all these different articles, and every day I think there are thousands of new articles being published, even in a specific subspecialty. And I think you need to have the skills to be able to be discerning, to know what articles are worth their salt, and what articles you need to, maybe you need to reconsider whether this is something that you can trust. And I think these skills have to be built very early, and I'm grateful that at LTC Medicine we are learning that very early in our scholarly projects and our SRIP, and of course if you do your own independent research, you pick up these skills much earlier. They'll really go a long way.
Yes. So a big shout out to all our faculty for supporting the students, guiding them, mentoring them, and also the medical libraries who have worked very hard also to connect with our students through consultations. What an insightful sharing from you. Thank you so much, Lim Rong.